Can a legend like Lewis Hamilton transform Ferrari, or will he end up being dragged down by the same mistakes that have held the team back for more than a decade? Today I tell you why Hamilton is on the verge of despair with Ferrari and how Singapore was the straw that broke the camel's back. His phrase, as direct as it was lapidary, "Others are improving and we are not. We have not even improved in Singapore," was not just a momentary complaint. It was a wake-up call. It was the echo of a world champion realizing, perhaps for the first time, that he has exchanged a structured environment for one full of uncertainty. A warning not only to the team but to the entire world. Ferrari risks squandering the best opportunity it has had in a decade, and he is wasting it in front of millions of viewers. This first act does not need more races to show that the alliance between Hamilton and Ferrari is in crisis. Because when a driver like Lewis speaks, he doesn't do it on impulse. He does it because he has seen enough to understand that something is not right. And that time, in Formula One, is a resource that runs out quickly. Singapore wasn't just another race on the calendar. It was a technical ruling for Ferrari. A public judgment on the design, internal decisions and development direction that the SF25 has followed. If there was any doubt about the fragility of the Prancing Horse 2025 project, Marina Bay was responsible for dispelling it in just a few laps. And it was there, under the artificial lights and suffocating humidity of the street circuit, that Hamilton's frustration reached the point of no return. The autopsy of this debacle does not require a scalpel, just reviewing the facts. From the beginning, SF25 was unstable and reactive. What should have been an opportunity to redeem itself on a street circuit where control, traction and thermal management defined performance became a minefield for Ferrari. From the first lap, Hamilton and Leclerc were forced to implement a desperate strategy known as lift and coast, taking their foot off the accelerator before braking to prevent overheating of brakes that, by design, were already compromised. This rudimentary and emergency method is the type of tactic that is reserved for when a car is already in crisis. And in Singapore, both SF25s ran with that cross from the start. Hamilton lost 44 seconds in just 2 laps at the end of the race, a direct consequence of a critical failure in the left front brake. That pushed him to repeatedly violate track limits, earning him an additional 5-second penalty and loss of track position. But the ordeal was not unique to Hamilton. Leclerc also suffered a brutal thermal imbalance between his rear brakes from lap 8, which then transferred to the front axle. His radio testimony, desperate and raw, says it all. "For fuck's sake, we are doing 200 meters Lico." He literally had to sacrifice 200 meters of acceleration per lap just to avoid destroying his car. 463 full laps, Ferrari competed not against its rivals, but against its own car. Fred Vasseur, the team boss, had no choice but to admit it. The race was compromised from the opening laps. The Marina Bay circuit, with its intense braking zones, suggests perfect conditions to evaluate the car's thermal efficiency. But for Ferrari, those conditions became a death trap. Without long straight sections to cool the components, and with a technical package poorly optimized for this type of circuit, the SF25 exposed all its weaknesses. And he did it without mercy. This race was a brutal X-ray of the soul of the car. Because the problem was not simply the brakes. What happened in Singapore showed a deeper, more systemic failure. A disconnect between what engineers designed and what pilots need. The car not only lacks proper balance, lacks adaptability. And that, in a modern Formula One where versatility is everything, is a competitive death sentence. Ferrari arrived in Singapore hoping to revalidate its position as a contender. She left humiliated, becoming the clearest example of how a team can have the talent, the budget, the history, and still fail in what is essential: building a car that works under pressure. This was the day when the technical truth of the SF25 became impossible to hide. It was the day the project was laid bare before the world. And the day Lewis Hamilton definitively understood that winning with Ferrari will not be a matter of talent. It will be a war against the technical inertia of a team that has not yet understood how to evolve without self-destructing in the process. The most worrying thing about what happened in Singapore was not the brake failure, nor even the humiliation on the track. The most serious thing is that all of this was not an exception, but a consequence. A symptom of a structural problem that Ferrari has had for years, but that now, with the signing of Lewis Hamilton, has been laid bare before the eyes of the world. Ferrari is not bad for a race. It's wrong by design, by concept, by technical direction. The SF25 as a project has revealed fundamental shortcomings. It suffers from chronic understeer from the first corner of each session. The front tires do not reach the optimal temperature at the time when they are most needed, in qualifying, at starts, at restarts after the safety car. This, in itself, is a defect that already conditions the entire approach to a career. But in addition, the car has an obvious imbalance between the front and rear axle that prevents neutral balance. The car does not respond predictably when pushed to the limit. It is a problem of aerodynamic philosophy, of mass distribution, of correlation between the wind tunnel and real behavior on the track. And the worst thing is that it is not new. Ferrari has been failing in this convergence between simulation data and real results for at least 3 seasons. But this year, with a driver like Hamilton who doesn't tolerate excuses or half measures, those flaws become impossible to ignore. Hamilton needs a car that can turn with millimeter precision, which gives him confidence when entering corners. That was the secret of his dominance with Mercedes. But at Ferrari, not only does he not have that security, it has the opposite, constant uncertainty. And that forces him to change his driving, to adapt to a tool that was not built for him, while he sees how his rivals McLaren, Mercedes, even Red Bull, evolve with each race and take advantage of the chaos in Maranello. And this is where Ferrari faces its cruelest mirror, the mirror of time. Because we're not just talking about a bad car. We are talking about a repeating pattern. Year after year, Ferrari presents projects with potential, but that fail in execution, in development, in deep understanding of what current Formula One requires. The 2024 was already a warning, a competitive but fickle car with a performance peak that was never sustained. 2025 should be the step forward. And yet, what we see is a structure that remains trapped in its own technical labyrinth, unable to learn from their mistakes, unable to make their innovations work together, incapable of giving its pilots the necessary tools to compete on equal terms. The SF25, according to technical analyses leaked from the paddock, is one of the single-seaters most sensitive to changes in temperature, pressure, and side wind. Its performance window is so narrow that any deviation makes it uncontrollable. This is not just a design flaw, it is a condemnation of inconsistency. It is a guaranteed recipe for not fighting for championships. And the problem doesn't end with the car. It's cultural. Ferrari remains in many ways hostage to its past. A team that still seems to operate under the pressure of its history rather than the logic of modern performance. That makes decisions for image, for internal politics, to protect obsolete hierarchies, instead of following the relentless route that championships require. Lewis Hamilton came to change that. But so far, all he has achieved is to become a witness to a system that resists change. A system that has forced him to improvise, to fight with weapons that are not at his level. And although his talent is capable of hiding the car's flaws at times, that is not enough to fight with the latest generation McLarens or the Mercedes that have begun to regain ground with each Grand Prix. Ferrari in 2025 is not alone fighting its rivals. He is fighting his reflection. Against the version of herself that promised evolution but once again has chosen disappointment. That is the real tragedy. It's not that the car is bad. There is no clear exit route. Because when the problem is at the root, the change does not begin with a new spoiler. It starts with an internal revolution. And that, for now, does not seem to be underway. What Lewis Hamilton is experiencing at Ferrari is not simply a difficult stage of adaptation. It is the reflection of a deep disconnection between individual talent and collective potential. He is a pilot who has won everything, facing the helplessness of not being able to change a system that refuses to evolve. And that helplessness transforms into frustration, into crude statements like the one he uttered after Singapore, which has already been recorded in the history of this season. Others improve and we don't. That phrase is more than a diagnosis. It's a scream. A lament that encapsulates the reality of a team that year after year seems condemned to repeat its mistakes. Because Ferrari does not suffer from lack of resources. It does not lack engineers, it does not lack money, nor does it lack pilots. It lacks coherence. It lacks a clear direction. It lacks modernity in its approach. Hamilton came to change that. He did not come to stroll through Maranello or to retire with symbolic glory. Came to win. To feel again that you are competing on equal terms. And in his head, the plan was clear. Use his experience, his technical knowledge, his development capacity, and his champion's instinct to transform Ferrari from within. But so far, all he has managed to do is demonstrate, painfully, how far Ferrari is from being ready to accompany him in that transformation. The most worrying thing is not that the car doesn't work. The most worrying thing is that, despite Hamilton's talent and the team's effort, there are no clear signs of real progress. SF25 has not responded to updates. He has not shown the ability to adapt. Leave me your opinion in the comments. What do you think about all this?